Pippa, thank you so much for joining us here at FundForum. Some fascinating insights in your panel discussion there. Let's start off, if you like, with your predictions, because you've been pretty accurate in the past, haven't you?
Well, knock on wood, the problem with pulling rabbits out of hats is once you've done it, everybody expects you to keep doing it.
Absolutely. Work your magic.
So, well, a few things. I think Mexico is the new China. Its wages are 30% cheaper than China. Its quality control is American standard. And it is so deeply integrated into the US economy. And people are getting overexcited about the wall, which frankly is already there in large part. But bottom line is the Mexicans aren't moving north as much. You can see that in the data because the jobs are in Mexico. And the Americans are going to literally use an airplane to fly right over the wall. So, the investment will continue. And the Mexicans have announced allowing foreign direct investment into the oil energy sector for the first time. The Chinese are all over it. They're investing. They're building one of the biggest ports in western coast of the Americas there. They're building railway links into Kansas City. They're building new refineries. So I think that Mexico is in a very, very strong position as the leading emerging market that we're going to see activity in. That's one big view. Another big view is that Britain will be fine post-Brexit. Now I say that because these are my personal views, because I'm an advisor to the British government on the subject. But again, people are very emotional about this issue, and what I see is it's a big, important industrial economy, and it will make its way. And that investors everywhere are actually saying, as long as the British adhere to their traditional commitment to rule of law, which has a real strength for them, that they are interested. And in fact, every time sterling falls, everybody says, well, we'll just buy more stuff from the British because they're more competitive. And they go to buy assets in the UK, properties, companies. So it's not such a bad thing. I'm not saying you should make your way through devaluation, but when it happens, it's a bonus for a lot of investors.
And this from a lady who owns a company in the UK as well.
Exactly. Well, I co-founded a robotics company, and we manufacture in the UK. So I know for sure that Britain is a very competitive space for manufacturing these days. People in the asset management industry would say, are you crazy? That can't be right. But they don't understand how much the wages have gone up in China and how much the quality control has fallen as the workers in China have registered. They're not going to be rich before they get old. So now they're mad about that and they're not working as hard. And this is part of the reason the government has had to contend with more social protest, social unrest, and why they've had to introduce something they call the Great Firewall, which is China's effort to create a kind of digital border and keep the Chinese from being able to communicate with the rest of the world. I mean, they can't use Dropbox and DocuSign at this point, which I think will impinge innovation, and that will hold them back in my judgment. They may be able to innovate in a Mandarin speaking context, but not in a global context as easily as before.
We've touched there on the tumultuous geopolitical landscape we're living in. What opportunities does that bring, if you like? Because everybody's sort of knee-jerk is, oh, it's terrible, it causes instability and disruption, but what opportunities does it bring?
Well, this is the thing. It's so interesting. I didn't talk about Donald Trump's visit to the Middle East, but this is one of the most important geopolitical events on the landscape, and we have Saudi and the Emirates all blockading Qatar. This is an extraordinary event, and it's all about reducing the support for radical terrorism. And so when I talk to everybody in the region, they all say, this is great, we love this guy, he's totally aligned Israel and Saudi. I mean, this is not easy to do. And everybody against the two countries that we view to be a problem, Qatar and Iran. So is this a geopolitical opportunity or a problem? I actually think that there'll be many who see it as an opportunity. Now, for those people who wanted to see the normalization of Iran, it's a problem. And it will put pressure on Iran to think about new ways in which they can integrate into the world, which I think their citizens really want to do. And I think it's one of the most entrepreneurial countries on the planet. But it's definitely caught now between, an Obama administration that wanted to welcome it in and a Trump administration that absolutely wants to keep it out. So there'll be opportunities and losses for people in that space. And I think that's true for every element of geopolitics. It's the same with Brexit. For some people, Brexit is going to be a total disaster for the UK, and they're going to invest more time and energy in the Eurozone and on the continent. And for others, this creates the best opportunity ever for the UK. Both can be right. It depends what their bet is.
You also talked very interestingly about infrastructure and how important that's going to become in this ever-evolving world, and China particularly are investing hugely in what you describe as the real economy. Describe that for me.
So this is their one belt, one road, one circle strategy. And it's about physical infrastructure. They are building, one belt is the road and rail network from Eastern China through Central Asia, into the Middle East, into Western Europe, and frankly even beyond, but it's highways, it's railways, it's a physical link. So they now have the longest railway journey in the world is Yiwu in Eastern China to London's Borough Market. It takes 18 days. So that's the one belt. The one road, ironically, is a maritime Silk Road, and that goes from Eastern China around Asia, around India, into the Middle East, but again around Africa, and frankly into Latin America as well. And that's all about ports and the maritime links, the huge infrastructure build out. I was in Oman recently. They're taking a fishing village of 10,000 people and turning it into one of the largest industrial ports in the whole region. This is a huge influx of new capital. And then one circle is the Arctic strategy. It's actually, one circle takes you above through the Arctic and then below underneath India. And one circle is important because there's a huge competition for the Arctic now between particularly the Russians and the Chinese. The Chinese have the fastest icebreakers, and they can now make the journey from Eastern China to Western Europe through the Arctic in only 26 days.
It's interesting that there's this sort of emphasis on physical trade, if you like, in a world where everybody's talking so much about tech and everything being data and digital. Yeah. It's quite an interesting development.
It's funny, and I find also in financial markets, we focus so much on the financial assets and financial returns, which everybody complains are so low, right? There's no return, there's no yield, there's no nothing. The real economy is giving you performance. That's why we heard some of the asset managers on my panel talk about getting involved with factoring, with lending. What they're really saying is it's more productive to give capital to real economy businesses because they're getting a better performance on the money than financial investing. This is a massive change. I mean, even today, if you make a loan to a manufacturing business in the US or the UK, you can have that 3 times collateralized and it's paying, 15% per annum. What do you need a hedge fund for when you get 15% per annum completely collateralized?
And do you think this is purely a financially driven thing, or do you think there's any social aspect to people thinking that actually we should be investing in the real economy?
I actually think it's the financial performance is driving this, but I also think that there's a very profound grass movement occurring called the maker movement, which I'm part of. In my manufacturing company, I have a robotics company that manufactures commercial drones. Everywhere you see young kids getting involved in learning how to make things. And I think there's going to be big juice in this. Huge innovation is going to come out of this space. There's a misbelief that all innovation has to be software and it has to be math. And I know this because I try to hire the graduates of the best graduate schools in the world. They are brilliant mathematicians. But when you hand them a piece of metal and you say, weld that, they're like, whoa, this I don't do. And so they can make it fly on paper, or as it were, they can make it fly on the computer design. They can't make it fly in real life.
So hardware is going to become a more profitable area to be in?
I do think so. And I also think this idea that all the hardware production was done by the Chinese because they were the cheapest, again, this is not true any longer. And hardware, it's what will really matter is the integration of well-made hardware with well-made software. That's the nexus. And frankly, that's what you carry in your pocket, right? That's an iPhone. It's a physical platform with amazing cutting-edge software. That notion of combining the two, I think, is where the real performance is going to come from.
We touched there on tech and how important it is and how this industry have to embrace it. It's been seen as a disruptor, something to fear, but they seem to be embracing it. Do you think that's true?
Well, they don't have any choice. I mean, at the end of the day, data is incredibly helpful, so your competitors will beat you if you don't focus on it. Having said that, a key theme of the book that I wrote last year, Signals, was financial market people literally go through life blind in one eye. They love to believe that if they just look through a mathematical lens at data, polls, quantitative analysis, that they can find the answer. And yet they all missed Brexit, Trump. They missed so many events. And why? Because they don't use the common sense eye that sees right what is in front of you. And so as a small example, we were talking about inflation. Is there any inflation? Well, when you look at a data lens, you say there's no inflation, no issue. But your common sense says, look at Portland where they're having the riots. What has happened to the price of rent in Portland in the last year? It's up 15% in a single year. You cannot tell the students in Portland they're imagining this. So I'm just saying, open both eyes. Let's use all the data we have, and yes, it's going to get ever more sophisticated, so get with the program. But don't forget to use your common sense and to look around and use the things that are qualitative in nature. Because when it comes to populism, tell me, how are we going to quantify how much anger there is? I don't know how you put a number on that, but I know it's real. And I know that the anger in Italy is going to be a huge factor in whether the Eurozone stays together or not, but that's not in any data point. So this is the thing, a holistic view, I think, is more useful.
So if you were to now say to your daughter, what should you be looking at as an industry to go into and to work in, and where's the future? What would you say to her?
Well, she asked me now. She's 13. She says, Mom, what do you think I should do when I grow up? And my answer is many things. This is not a world anymore where we have to choose a profession and go down this narrow path. We're going to be in a gig economy where we all do lots of different things. I think breadth is now more important than specialization. We live in a world where everybody's in a silo, where they're very specialized and really brilliant at that little thing they do, but no sense of what's happening on the landscape, no what I call situational awareness of the world. So that's how they get blindsided by events. So my advice to her is you need certain skills. You need to code, right? In my day, we put on our resume, I speak French, I speak German, I speak Spanish. Yeah, today you need to have code. Right, they won't even let you into MIT unless you know that language, and it's a universal language. So that's one thing you've got to have. I think you have to be knowledgeable about technology generally, and I don't care what field you're in. She's into music, and everything is, you compose on a computer these days. So honestly, the answer is everybody needs to know more about finance. It's ridiculous that we live in a world where kids can graduate from high school and have no idea how to calculate compound interest or how that affects them and their credit card balance. This is insane. So we have, and thank God for apps that will now allow us to see our true situation more accurately. So I guess my honest answer is you have to be just open. And if you do what you love anyway, you'll figure out how to make money at it.
There's huge opportunity out there for you to grow.
Huge opportunity. The world economy is expanding at an incredible pace. So I actually think, more importantly, the question of globalization, everybody says, oh, is globalization over? Quite the opposite. The old globalization was all the jobs went to China. The new globalization is jobs are being created everywhere. And the problem we have is not country-based, it's skills-based. So we're seeing splits in our society between those who are highly skilled and those who aren't. And we've got to figure out what to do with the people who aren't and give them skill sets. So I have some thoughts about how we could do that, but it's not university. It's more about putting shop class back in the schools and teaching kids how to weld metal, right? That actually practical skills will produce a lot of wealth.
And in a world that's driven by tech, those skills, those hard physical skills will perhaps become more valued.
Absolutely. I was recently at an event where I heard the chief executive of Infosys, and the description of computing and data was fascinating. It was, if it's backward looking, it's all going to be automated and artificial intelligence driven. If it's forward looking, only humans can do that. And I think that's absolutely right. And I say that as someone who's in AI and in robotics myself. You can program computers to do stuff, but getting them to discern the future and to make intuitive leaps, lateral leaps of judgment, they still can't do it.
That's a human job.
That's a human job.
Thank you so much for your insights. It's been fascinating.
Great,
Thanks, Pippa.
thank you.